I'm a simple man. I try to go through life, just let it play out as it goes, but there are things in life that really do bug me, and I wish I could talk about them here, but one, we'd have way too much time to talk about them, and two, there's just so many things I could talk about. I could talk about how much I don't like Trump supporters, MAGA conservatives, Fox News, clout-chasing influencer nutjobs, brain rot, memes and trends, YouTube pranksters, artificial intelligence being used as a cheap alternative to actual art, reality television trash, making celebrities out of idiots, entitled parents thinking they're better than people like me, parents who just have kids for the accessory aspect and not because they wanted to be parents or didn't bother to put a condom on when they got pregnant, people who try to rework the original meaning of the word woke to prove their points. The list goes on and on. And I can already guarantee I probably have alienated several of my viewers right now, but hey, it is what it is. But I may not be able to talk about all the problems that I have in the world right now, but there is one problem right now that is happening in the world of Hollywood that I feel like we need to talk about, because I'm telling you right now, this thing is going to get ugly. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And I'm, of course, talking about legacy sequels. What exactly is a legacy sequel, you might be asking? Well, it's about as simple as you can expect it to be. Well, you see, what it is a sequel coming many, many years after the last movie. Sometimes it'll be 5 years, sometimes it'll be 10 years, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. The list goes on and on. And most of these sequels come out with with some of the original cast members, some of the bigger cast members coming back for them, and more times than not, they are not very good. Every once in a while, you get something like a Top Gun Maverick, or Ghostbusters Afterlife, or Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, but that actually turns out to be pretty good, actually really good. But then again, you get titles like some of the more notorious examples of legacy sequels that did not turn out to be very good. The Matrix Resurrections, Coming to America, The Boss Baby Family Business, Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore, Jurassic World. Well, technically Jurassic World's not really a long legacy sequel, but Gladiator 2, Twisters, Tron Ares, Freakier Friday, Happy Gilmore 2, Avatar Fire and Ash, Avatar The Way of Water 2, if we really want to go down that route. More recently, The Devil Wears Prada 2, Scream 7. Pretty much these are all movies within the last 6 years. This has been a trend that has been around for many, many years. It's been more isolated as far as you go back to 2000 and all the way backwards. Like, every once in a while, you'll get you'll get a sequel, like in the 90s or so. Like, there's three in particular, like The Evening Star coming 13 years after Terms of Endearment, Fierce Creatures, which is sort of a sequel to A Fish Called Wanda, coming 9 years after A Fish Called Wanda, Blues Brothers 2000 with Dan Aykroyd and not John Belushi, because John Belushi's been dead since 1982, and Blues Brothers came out in 1980, Blues Brothers 2000 came out in 1998. You get the idea. Legacy sequels, these long-standing sequels gaps between the last movie and the new movie, more times than not, they are not very good movies, and we have had a gigantic amount of them in the last, at least in the last 10 years or so. And again, like I said, every once in a while you do get a good one here and there, but we're kind of in a bubble right now. And like I said, a bubble is a perfect example for how the whole idea of the legacy sequels nowadays feels. A little one every once in a while, like I said, a Ghostbusters Afterlife, a Top Gun Maverick, a Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. Every once in a while, a good legacy sequel is fine. It doesn't do too much damage. But then we get to a certain point where the bubble is getting bigger and bigger because people just don't understand that not everything needs a new sequel after all these years. Like, you throw in all the ones I just mentioned before, and you throw in stuff like, Practical Magic 2, Dumb and Dumber 2. What was another one? Stuff like Zoolander 2, we just touched on that on Time About the Movies a couple weeks ago. Independence Day Resurgence, another one we touched on just recently. Terminator Dark Fate, Men in Black International, The Cloverfield Paradox, The Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, Terminator Genesis, Big Mamas, Like Father, Like Son. You get the whole idea here. These sequels that the studios make you think that you've been waiting to see for so many years, and when you really go back and look at them, you really don't want to see these movies in particular. Like, here's Family Guy, a clip from Family Guy that perfectly sums up what they think it feels like when you announce a sequel that you think everyone is demanding to see. By the way, Hocus Pocus 2 is another one I could throw in there as well. But here's a clip from Family Guy that perfectly sums up what the studios think your reaction is going to be when they announce a sequel that you think you've been asking for, but you really have not.
How is this happening? Oh my God! I was watching upstairs on Hulu! I saw it on my phone! My plane has Wi-Fi!
I think that pretty much sums it up right there. So, the purpose of this week's discussion is that I want to talk about the biggest problems with making these legacy sequels. Because on paper, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's a bad idea, but we're going to talk about the biggest problems overall. And I split them up into 4 different topics of discussion here. So, what are some of the biggest problems with legacy sequels? Number 1, getting the stars back. Now, a lot of the reasons why these sequels that are coming now weren't made, like, maybe, say, 3 to 5 years after the previous movie, which I always say is 3 to 5 years is the perfect gap to make a good sequel. Like, even if it doesn't turn out to be good, at least you're making them in a time when people are still, at least when people still have an idea of what the original film is and all that, and seeing how long the legacy of that particular film is. But doing it many years later, I mean, getting the stars back was usually the biggest problem for why those sequels never got made until now. Like, you know, contract negotiations were always the biggest deals of why most of these legacy sequels that we've gotten in the last couple of years never happened 30 to 40 years prior to that. I mean, one of the biggest things about Ghostbusters, why there wasn't another movie from 1989 until we got the 2016 reboot with Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy, was that, you know, they were trying to get that third Ghostbusters movie made for some time, and, you know, contract negotiations was a big deal, getting everybody's schedules to meet up overall, and just getting the studios to basically buy into the film. Yeah, none of it really came together, and that's why we didn't get a Ghostbusters sequel, it's a new Ghostbusters movie, until nearly 30 years after the last movie. I mean, the same thing can be said with a lot of these legacy sequels. Like, I mean, probably the reason why they can get these stars back now with the contracts that they have is that they can make these sequels so cheaply and is because they're probably going to use you know, the advanced technologies and yes, even AI to essentially make these sequels they may look expensive, but probably in return they actually look cheaper. And those big budgets, like you know, those big budgets that you see for the final product when they put the numbers out there, they probably aren't for the movies themselves. They're more for the big contracts that the stars end up signing for. I mean, that's just what I'm thinking about it. Because yeah, nothing about The Devil Wears Prada 2 looked like it cost $100 million, except for the contracts for Streep and Hathaway, because Anne Hathaway's star power has vastly improved since the release of the first movie. Meryl Streep will always get a big payday no matter what. But also the only thing that I could see that was really expensive about that movie was the fashion, but that's about it. I mean, that really is about it. That's the only way I can see that movie costing $100 million. Which brings us to number 2 of this problem, and that is convincing you that you wanted a sequel when you didn't. I mean, I've talked about it before. Con men always have a way to figure out, you know, how to convince you to come to get their stuff, come to see their stuff. And I'm willing to believe that studio executives also do the exact same things too, because social media is now a trendy subject, and they can hire like influencers, or let's be honest, bots, to essentially make you want to believe that you want to see another one of these movies when you really didn't. It's one of the best. It's like the equivalent of the scene from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like when Judge Doom's about to take down Roger with a dip inside the bar, and Eddie's about to give him a drink because he knows that if he gives him a drink, like, he'll go crazy and they can get out of there. Like the part where Roger's just like, you know, I don't want the drink, and Judge Doom's just like, he doesn't want the drink, and Eddie's just like, he does, I don't, you do, I don't. Like the whole Bugs Bunny Daffy Duck routine. That's what it feels like whenever these studios tell you you've been wanting to see sequels to The Devil Wears Prada or Practical Magic or Freaky Friday. It's just like you want. It's that same back and forth thing. Like the studio is Bob Hoskins, Eddie Valiant, and you are Roger Rabbit. Just like, I don't want this. You do. I don't. You do. I don't. You don't. I do. You don't. I do. You don't. Listen, when I say I do, it means I do. And that's how they get you. That's how they convince you that you wanted a sequel to these movies when you really didn't. I mean, let's be honest. That's the cold, honest truth with these films. Nobody was asking for these movies. And yeah, they try to make it a big deal by saying like, oh, look at the streaming numbers on Netflix and Hulu and all these places. The demand is there. People want this. It's just like, I really don't think that is. I mean, let's be honest. Netflix and Hulu have had shows that were very popular on there that are no longer on there. Stranger Things just came to an end this past fall. So I think people are still scrolling all over Netflix to see what they want to find out there. And you can't really say that just because like someone randomly found Practical Magic or The Devil Wears Prada out there, that's clearly something that means that yes, people want to see more of these movies. It's like, if that was the case, what about all these other franchises that usually that need to get that definitely would benefit from a newer movie nowadays? We'll touch on that in a little bit here, or we can just touch on it right now. I probably should have made this its own little section here, but really, think about the other franchises that that ended with bad movies, and we haven't heard from them since. Imagine what you could do if you did reboot some of these franchises. Reboot Terminator, reboot RoboCop. These franchises that ended with bad movies or bad films or spin-offs or that type of stuff. You could do that with several. There are several franchises out there that could use a big reboot in general. Like I mentioned, Terminator, RoboCop. What's another one that could use a nice reboot here? I guess maybe Star Trek, considering it's been a long time since we had a new Star Trek movie. And as of right now, I don't know exactly what their plan is. I mean, they've been talking about doing one more film with the original crew from the J.J. Abrams movie for a long time. I think Quentin Tarantino was at one point attached to direct one, but that never happened. So I don't know what the direction for Star Trek is going forward here, because I don't think they've announced any big projects since then. But I got to think we're going to be hearing some reboot news pretty soon, probably within the end of at least by the end of the decade, I would think. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely reboots out there. There's sequels that could use franchises that could use reboots to their franchises in general. I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean is a franchise that desperately needs a reboot, and they've been talking about doing a new one with Margot Robbie. I don't know if that's still moving forward or not, but you get the idea. Like, do sequels that if you're gonna do a sequel that's been long after the original film, do it with a franchise that people love, people still have respect for. Like, don't try to convince us to have a sequel to something that we wanted that we never did. Like, we're getting a new Shrek film coming out next year. The demand is there for a Shrek franchise, even though I think the fourth movie kind of ended the series on a much better note, at least the better note that the third film did. I mean, the demand will be there when that movie comes out. I would not be shocked at all. That's one of the big hits of next summer. So let's move on now to number 3. And again, kind of going to a point I've been talking about before. Number 3 I have here, waiting way too long after the last movie to make a new film. I mean, Devil Wears Prada, I can see maybe why doing another film now makes sense, because this year's the 20th anniversary of that. But Practical Magic, that movie came out nearly 30 years ago, and I never heard someone even think about demanding another film in that series. I just never heard those demands out there from people saying, the world is demanding another Practical Magic movie. It's like, I mean, not exactly. I mean, it has been. It's been what? It'll be 28 years in between is when that movie finally comes out this fall, and I'm just kind of thinking to myself, like, why do they think this movie is going to do that well? Yes, I know Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman are draws, but Practical Magic is not a franchise that has that same caliber, like like some of these other sequels out there, these other franchises out there that have sequels. Then you get stuff like, Top Gun. Like, Top Gun Maverick came out 36 years after the last movie. Yeah, that's one of those few examples where waiting a long period of time actually did pay off in the long run. Because remember, that was a movie that was originally supposed to come out before COVID. I think 2019 was the original release date for that movie. But of course, when COVID happened, they pushed it back to 2020 before COVID happened. Then COVID happened, and then just jumbled around the schedule until we got to 2022 when it finally got released. And Tom Cruise still had that star power after the Mission Impossible movies, and he still has that star power. So yeah, people came out in droves to see that film. You get these movies that have these sequels that are coming way past the point of the last movie. What's another example I could say here? Like what we have coming up next month, Scary Movie 6, which is coming 13 years after the last movie. And okay, I mean, I get it's an idea, it's a good idea maybe to try to do, it's been 13 years since the last movie, and you can see them try to do new things with it. I don't think the movie is going to work because the stuff that's been coming out for it has not been that good, but at least there's a sense that there's at least a reasoning for doing a Scary Movie 6 now, considering it's been 13 years since the last movie. But then you get stuff like, Fokker-in-Law, which comes out at the end of the year. It's been 16 years since the last movie, and that last movie was so terrible that I would think that would have been a sign for the studios to say, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just call that series done for at the end of the third film. At least we got our trilogy out of it. But I will say this though, the trailer for the new Fokker-in-Law was much better than I thought it was going to be. I don't think it's going to mean anything if it's for the movie to turn out to be good or anything, but it's at least showing a little bit of confidence that maybe, just maybe, it might be good. It might not be. It could be a bad film, but I mean, at least it's showing some promise to possibly get to end that series on a much better note here. But I mean, yeah, I said it before. The biggest thing for me with sequels is that the big area that I would say do a sequel in 3 to 5 years, because in 3 to 5 years, that's when you know how good the first film and its legacy is going to be. Like within 5 years, like Avatar is one of the examples I have. Avatar, after 5 years, most people kind of really forgot about that movie, honestly. I mean, most people barely remembered that movie. It didn't really have that big lasting legacy to it. In the 13 years between the first movie and The Way of Water, the only memorable thing to come out of that was the Animal Kingdom area in 2017. But even then, I mean, that's probably the best overall thing that has come out of the Avatar franchise, is that area. Because I went there the first year that opened up, and it was actually really cool to see. But the movies themselves have just gotten progressively worse because they're just doing the same things over and over and over again. And that leads into the biggest reasoning for what's the biggest problem with these legacy sequels. And that simply is that fact that most of them are really pointless. They serve no reason for existing whatsoever. They don't do anything to expand on the story from the last movie. They pretty much, most of them are just here we go again sequels, which basically means, they're just rehashing the plots from the last couple of movies. I mean, My Big Fat Greek Wedding did that twice. Hangover did that twice. And, the whole thing is just kind of like, what's the point? Except for name recognition. That's really all it is. It's just like, these sequels come out and they don't expand on what was said and done in the first movie. It's like, they take these movies that ended on the best notes, overall, is the best notes at the end of the first film, and then they say that, well, look at how much money this made. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make a sequel that's gonna completely regress all the characters back to where they were at the end of the first movie, and we're just gonna do it all over again. It's just like, what's the point? Like, what's the point of doing this except to just make money off of it? I mean, that's really what... It's like, if you're going to do these sequels, come up with better storylines here. I am fully convinced that these legacy sequels that we've gotten have all been written by ChatGPT or AI. Because there's nothing about these scripts that you see on screen that literally feel like these were written by people who have an idea and an understanding of what to do with this universe and how to expand the story. No, they all just feel like the same thing. It's just like, hey, remember, it's like they go to ChatGPT or AI and basically say, give us a sequel to this movie here. Let's go, watch the first movie again, make some references to the first film, put some homages in there. Let's add some elements for Gen Z to come in there, social media clout chasers to come in and basically, throw them, make it modern for their generation so that we can have an understanding of that. But have some of the older stuff in there so the audiences who watch these movies when they were younger can look at them go again, just like, hey, I remember that. Hey, that's his first movie, that type of stuff. Like, it just seemed like I was rambling on there, and I was. I'm not gonna lie, but you got the idea. You get what I'm trying to come from here. Most of these sequels add nothing from the last movie. Like I said, every once in a while there'll be that one exception, but more times than not, they are 110% pointless. And they're only there just for one reason and one reason only. Money. That's all it is. It's all about the money. Just like in the words of Jesse J. It's actually no. That's actually going against what Jesse J was singing about with Price Tag. But you get the idea of what I'm trying to get across here. Like, most of these legacy sequels are pointless, and more importantly, they're movies that everyone is going to forget about as soon as they come out. Like, I'm guaranteeing you right now, we're not going to remember The Devil Wears Prada 2 by the time 2030 comes around, or Practical Magic 2, or any of these sequels that have come out in the last couple of years, Freakier Friday. We're not going to remember these movies when the decade is over. They're just going to be movies where, you'll go into a Walmart or let's be honest, a Walmart is the only place where you can find physical media there. And Barnes & Noble too, but you'll go online, you'll see a DVD or a Blu-ray for a film that you remember, and it's just kind of like, oh, I remember that. I remember that. Wait, that came out a couple years ago? That's what it's going to be like for most of these movies here. And I really do feel like the bubble is going to burst. That bubble is going to burst sooner rather than later, where, it's the hot trend right now to do these legacy sequels. It's like what's going on right now with all these Pokemon scalpers. These scalpers that you go to Walmart or you go to these vending machines and you see people camping out for all this type of stuff, Yeah, they think they're going to make a ton of money right now, but sooner or later, Nintendo's going to realize that those Pokemon cards are a hot trend, and they're going to start making more of them. So yeah, it's cool for them. They think it's cool to do that right now, but sooner or later that bubble is going to burst. The same thing is going to happen with these legacy sequels. It's going to be fun to do this now, but sooner or later we're going to have way too many of these sequels. They're going to put more focusing on that instead of actually putting it to the original material, and then all of a sudden that bubble is going to burst. And yeah, the trend this is a trend right now. It's a bad trend, and I hope that's going away sooner rather than later, but it's going to be a trend where sooner or later that bubble is going to burst, and what's going to be left is hundreds of millions of dollars wasted on films that were extremely unnecessary and pointless. I mean, that's really what it all comes down to. That's the biggest problem with legacy sequels, and unless something radically changes, it's only going to get worse before it gets better here, people. So there you go. Just wanted to talk about that. So with all that said, if you enjoyed this, hit the like button and the subscribe button and the notification button. And check out the last video I did last week talking about the top 10 movie scores of all time, in my opinion. So, yeah, top 10 movie scores right there. And also check out our playlist below. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.